podcasts. And so I'm back, but I am not joined with Orna. I am now joined by Sacha Black. How are you, Sacha?
Hello, thank you for having me, my new partner in podcasting crime.
Yes, partner in podcasting crime. I guess for those who don't know about you, Sacha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am Sacha Black. I do work with ALLi. I basically managed the blog, and I'm also a writer of nonfiction, writing craft books, and I have some young adult books and a pen name, secret pen name, and I podcast myself. And yeah, I think that's probably enough from me.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you do a lot. You're kind of like me. I mean,
Yeah.
editor of the blog,
Yeah.
author, prolific author. Got some great writing books for writers and a great
Thank you.
podcast. So it's going to be fun. We're going to definitely miss Orna, but Orna is doing another podcast, I believe, with Howard, and it's on the ALLi network. So you're going to get plenty of Orna, no worries. So she handed the reins over to me and said, "All right, Michael, just go forward and answer as many self-publishing questions as you can." So
I shall try and do her justice.
yes, and for the questions that you all submit that neither Sacha and I can answer, we probably go to Orna anyway. So it's all good. Orna will always be present in some way on this show. So with that, I say we jump into our questions. And the most important thing that we want to make sure we do is answer as many questions as possible that come in. And because we took a little bit of a break from the show, we thought it would be a great idea to do a member Q&A greatest hits. So what are the most common questions that folks have been asking? And in many cases, a lot of these questions came in over the break while we were out. And so we're going to answer these questions generally. And then that way, we've got a really good show that we can send people to for these types of questions as they come up in the future so that we can focus on some of the more specific questions that you all may have. All right. So our first question, our greatest hits, the questions we get all the time that we want to make sure people know how to access. This is probably our number one ALLi benefit. And people want to know about the Ingram Spark discount code. Allows you to get free revision, allows you to be able to set up so many titles on the platform, 5 titles without having to pay a month. Yep, 5 titles per month without paying a setup fee. So, Sacha, your first question for the show: where can members find that?
So it's a nice and easy answer, this one. You need to log into your ALLi dashboard. So you visit allianceindependentauthors.org and then you click log in. And then you want to navigate across the menus to approved services and then discounts and deals. And then once you're in discounts and deals, you actually get access to all of the discounts, not just Ingram Spark. And you can search via type of service. So if you wanted production and distribution, editorial, design, so on and so forth. And I'm pretty sure that Ingram you can find in production and distribution. So that's the one you want to click for that. And then just scroll down until you find it. So nice and easy, that one.
Yes, very nice and easy. And just remember that code will change on a monthly basis. So if it's September and you don't upload a book until December, you need to go in and get the new code. So very, very helpful, and just need to know where that is. Thank you for that description, Sacha. I'm going to throw another one at you because I know this is in your wheelhouse. We get questions all the time on this podcast about ISBNs. Do I need an ISBN? When do I use a new ISBN? Do I need a different ISBN for my ebook versus my paperback? If I edit my book or fix some typos, do I need an ISBN? Where can our members find our best resources on ISBNs?
So we have got an ultimate guide, which is like quite a lengthy blog post article called The Ultimate Guide to ISBNs. And I believe we also have like a short mini guide as well, I think. Am I right in thinking that? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do, which you can find in our publication section. But the article, if you go to our blog, website, which is selfpublishingadvice.org, and then type in ISBNs. It's the first article that comes up usually, and it's called the Ask ALLi Ultimate Guide to ISBNs for Authors, and it literally answers all of those questions. And it has some case studies in there as well, which is quite useful to look at like the different times that you may or may not need to use them. And just to answer like one of the points that you said, it is one ISBN per format. So audiobook is different to ebook, which is different to paperback, which is different to hardback. But so you would need one for each of those. You do not need one for each distributor. So you would use the same ISBN for Ingram Spark as KDP Print for your paperback. And you would use the same ISBN for your hardback on Ingram Spark and on KDP Print, because they now do hardbacks. So that's probably the question that I think most people struggle. Well, that's the point most people struggle with.
Yes, and you answered that really well. I was going to say the short publication you're referring to is called Using ISBNs for
That's
Your
the
Self-Published Books.
That's
And
the one.
that is a short guide. It's available to ALLi members,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to log into your ALLi dashboard, and it's under Publications and then Short Guides.
And if you're not a member, you can actually still access this, but you just need to purchase it from our store, which if you go to selfpublishingadvice.org and then navigate to buy books, and then you can find it in our bookshop there as well.
And we will include links in the show notes for whether you're a member or I guess you can't do it if you're a member, but if you're not a member, we'll include a link to where you can purchase that book if you're interested. And I will also plug another ALLi resource that mentions ISBNs, and that is a book that Orna and I co-wrote, and it's called 150 Self-Publishing Questions Answered. There's also a very lengthy section on ISBNs in that book as well, for anyone who is interested in that too. All right. See, look at that. We got quite a few questions answered already. Okay. So next question, is another question we get a lot. We know that there are lots of different different service providers out there. And sometimes it can be hard to know which ones are potentially legitimate, which ones are not legitimate, and maybe need some words of caution around. So maybe you come across X editor in the wild and you want to know, hey, what does ALLi think about that particular service? Or you come across another service and you're not quite sure if it's a good value for the money or not. And the question is often, what does ALLi think about XYZ service? And I'll answer this one. And we have a watchdog. Our watchdog does a great job of looking out for services that do a really good job in the community that we want people to know about. And then they also do a good job about letting people know about the services that you should avoid, either due to poor value for the money, maybe some issues with customer service in the past, or just some outright issues of fraudulent activity or potential bad actors. And we have a ratings directory, and it's called our Self-Publishing Advice Ratings Directory. And you can access that at selfpublishingadvice.org/ratings. And this is a database that you can basically filter or search by name. So you can type in the name and see if it is in our database and what we think about a particular service. And if the service that you're looking at in particular is not in the database, please reach out to us via our contact form on our site, and we would be happy to take a look and get them added into the database and give you some opinions. All right. Yeah. So this is one of our great services, and we just want to make sure that people know about that, because it can definitely save you a lot of time and heartache.
Yeah. I'm just going to add to that. In our ratings database, we have like a categorization, and there's an explanation of the different categories on that page as well. So if you don't understand what any of your category, like the color-coded categories mean, just look for the key, which explains the different ratings.
Yes. And John also wrote a great book, how to choose a self-publishing service. It's one of our ALLi guidebooks that's available for members and also available for purchase in our store. We'll also include a link for that in the show notes. That is just a great guide to get into John's mind about what he's looking for when he looks at and vets potential companies to put in that ratings directory. Okay. Next question is, I have a problem with my membership. Can you help? What should members do, Sacha, when they have an issue with their membership?
Reach out to the membership dashboard. Desk, I think is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So do you have the specific email? Because there is a member services email, and Sarah Begley will usually help with pretty much anything, I'm pretty sure, or she's able to pass you on to the right person. So if it's sort of a financial issue with the membership renewals, then that gets passed to I'm pretty sure that gets passed to Philip, but the email address is the thing that do you have the email address?
I don't have the email address handy, but you can just go to selfpublishingadvice.org/contact, and that anything you send in that form will go to that email for Sarah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes we get questions about membership. We are unable to answer those questions on this show, and so sometimes there can be a lag between the time you answer the time you ask your question versus the time we're able to see it. So those questions are best asked on our contact form. That way, Sarah and Philip can make sure to address it and help get it taken care of quickly.
Yeah.
All right. So we just don't want people hanging here because we don't always check our questions every day. And so we just want to make sure that if you do have a membership question, we want to make sure that's a priority and that you get it taken care of quickly. All right. Next question is, I signed a deal with a bad publisher. How do I get the rights back? What do you think, Sacha?
The honest answer is it depends, because it depends what your contract says. That is the place you should always go first, is to look at your contract, to look at the clauses, and to look at what exactly you signed away and what the length of terms were. So each contract is different. There is no standardized contract in the industry. So for example, if you signed your rights away for all formats for 5 years, then if you are out of those 5 years, then you can approach your publisher and ask for your rights back. That also then depends on if there was a subclause that said something like after 5 years, if there are less than 250 sales a year, for example. And if you're having more than 250 sales a year, then your publisher is within their rights to keep the or to renegotiate the contract anyway, because obviously it's a dual thing with the time and the quantity of sales. If you are out of your contract and there are no subclauses that you think are iffy, then you can simply write to your publisher and ask for them to revert your rights. It is as simple as an email. And then you then go into negotiations. You may not get all of the materials. For example, if they've paid for your cover, then it's very unlikely that they will give you the cover. You may not even get the final files from your book. So for example, if they've had them formatted and they've had them proofed, you may not get that proofed version. You may only have what you have as the final file that you submitted. So they are within their rights not to give you that back. And the expectation is that if they agree to revert your rights, then they should pull down any copies of your book that are for sale on any dashboard, any distributor. So you do need to check those things. I have a recommendation. I've read a book called Take Back Your Book by Caitlin Duncan. That is absolutely phenomenal. As she is a hybrid author who has had her rights, some of her rights reverted, she's still got some trad books, and she's got lots of case studies in there that look at different types of authors who have had their rights reverted or not reverted, as the case may be. But those, really, if you have signed a deal away, signed a contract, and you are, say, only in the first year of that contract and you're unhappy, unfortunately, unless you've got a break clause in the contract, it's quite unlikely that you are going to be able to get your rights back until the contract is fulfilled, in terms of those time clauses or sales clauses. So that is, that's the hard truth of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not an easy question, because it what you said in the beginning, I think is spot on, Sasha. It depends on what you signed, and another thing to think about is that sometimes authors sign life of copyright contracts. So it's not so much, I'm just licensing this particular book to you. You may have given the entire copyright to the publisher, which creates all sorts of other issues that you have to think about in terms of getting your rights back. And another thing to remember too is that you're wanting your book, but the publisher, if they've published a lot of books, your book is a number for them, and your book is an entry on their balance sheet. By holding your IP, it makes their company more valuable. So this is why publishers are less likely and reluctant to give up their rights, because essentially they're forfeiting something on their balance sheet. So yeah, the best way to avoid signing a bad contract is just to avoid signing a bad contract. just think twice about it, is my advice. Another thing is, at least here in the United States, I'll just plug this real quick. There is a principle called copyright termination, and it allows you to get your rights back after 35 years. And we won't go into the legal loopholes of that, but 35 years is a long time to fix a mistake. So what I
am
would
35. That's the whole of me.
exactly, I'm 35 too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's that's a long time. And if you're not in the United States, and maybe your country has another principle that you can get your rights reverted under, but I guess always encourage people to really think about, when you're signing a contract, what are the long-term consequences of this, and how am I going to regret this in the future, right? Or what ways could this come back to bite me, in the terms of, I want to get my rights back, but as Sasha mentioned, the sales threshold, the book is over the sales threshold, so I can't get the rights back. Or the publisher did a terrible job with the cover, I don't have any say. Or maybe the book takes off and becomes really popular, and maybe you want to make figurines or toys, and you can't do it because of a contract. You gave away all the rights for the book, as opposed to just the ebook and the print rights. So there's a lot to think about, and definitely have to be careful. You can absolutely do it. I would definitely read Caitlin's book, and we've got lots of resources on ALLi as well. But yeah.
She actually, Caitlin did write an article for ALLi on the self-publishing blog, so you could start there as well.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure if you type in rights reversion onto our blog, that article will pop up, I think, and I'm pretty sure it's called The Ultimate Guide to Rights Reversion. And it is excellent, and she is excellent. It's very comprehensive, so
Yep.
I highly recommend.
We'll grab that article and we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, perfect. Okay, next question is, can I distribute my books with both Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark?
Do you want me to answer that one?
You can, or I can take it.
Okay, yeah. So it depends. Seems to be a running theme for us today. It depends. So if we're talking about ebooks, then it depends whether or not you enroll in KDP Select, also known as Kindle Unlimited. If you enroll into Kindle Unlimited, I'm just going to call it that for sake of simplicity, then the answer is no. You can only have your books there. If you are talking about print books, then yes, there is no exclusivity with print books. You can have your books printed with Lulu as well if you wanted, or anywhere else, draft to digital print also, although they go via Ingram Spark. So yes, with print books, you can have them anywhere. And for ebooks, it depends, because I know Ingram Spark also deal with ebooks, but you can have your books in Kindle Unlimited only, so not on your website, not on Kobo, not on Apple, only Kindle Unlimited. Or if you do not enroll in Kindle Unlimited, then you can have them anywhere. So you could, if you wanted, to go through Ingram Spark for the ebook, or you could go through an aggregator like Draft2Digital or Publish Drive, or you can go direct to Google, to Barnes and Noble, to Kobo, to, well, any of the other stores. So yes, it really depends on ebook exclusivity or not, but for print you can always go wide with that, and ALLi encourage you to as well.
Yes, we always encourage you to go wide wherever and whenever possible, because you never know who's going to be interested in your book. And Kindle Unlimited, at least for ebooks, that's one slice of the global publishing market. For the most part, it's mostly the United States, right? So there's a big wide world out there other than just United States readers. So being able to reach all those readers is critical to building a long-term career. So
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sometimes we get the question around, does it make sense to distribute your paperback through Ingram and KDP? And the answer to that is yes. You should absolutely use both. Ingram is the largest print book distributor in the world. And what a lot of people don't know is that Ingram works with Amazon. So when you click that expanded distribution button on KDP Print, that's actually being fulfilled through Ingram. So if you have ISBNs or if you want to use Ingram, we highly recommend that. And what we recommend that you do for print is just simply take the upload your book to KDP Print, don't check expanded distribution, and then upload to Ingram Spark. And then that way, Ingram Spark will already handle the expanded distribution, and you'll have the benefit of being able to discount your book by the proper amount and being in Ingram's catalog, which will make it much easier for bookstores to purchase your book if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, a very common question. We get that a lot as well, but we definitely recommend both. It's not a either or; it's a yes and. But keep in mind the ebook limitations that Sacha mentioned around Kindle Unlimited, because that's important. Okay, next question is, and this is kind of a nebulous question. I'll take it. I'll state it, and then I'll start. Where is the best place to start for a beginner? All right. We get this question a lot, and there's, and it's great because we know there are always new people coming into self-publishing, and I don't know about you, Sacha, but I think it's so much easier to get started now than it was when I started in
Mm-hmm.
2014, because when I started, there were some resources, like there was Joanna Penn, and there were a few other places out there that had blogs or podcasts and stuff. But now, I mean, I think it's almost the opposite problem in that there's so much. Like there's dozens and dozens of blogs and podcasts and resources that as a beginner, sometimes you just don't know where to start. And where I would recommend that people start is just finding first off, become a member of ALLi. that's where I would recommend starting, because we have lots of resources. So start with ALLi and start with our guidebooks and start by reading our blog and listening to our podcasts, because we'll slowly start to get you the information that you need. But I would also recommend just picking a trusted resource, somebody that has a voice that you admire, somebody that is walking the path that you want to walk, and figure out what they're doing, and just take steps one step at a time. I think the tendency around getting started is to feel like you have to do everything at the same time, like you have to do everything at once, and you really don't have to do everything at once. There's no one saying there's no one that's going to come to your house in the middle of the night and bang on your door because you didn't get your author website started right away, right? I think the most important thing to do is just take a breather, get your head wrapped around all the things that you do need to know, and then figure out what you need to do one by one. So some of the important things that I would probably focus on first is, how do I write that first book? Because if you don't finish that first book, all the other, I mean, you don't really have a career, right? So finishing that first book, understanding the process of getting through that book, I think is important, and understanding ALLi's 7 stages of publishing. So every book goes through 7 stages in a life cycle. There's the creation stage, there's the editorial stage, there's the production stage, which includes formatting, includes preparing the book for ebook and print. There is the um, distribution stage where you upload the book to different retailers and figure out how you're going to distribute the book, where you're going to distribute the book. And then there's marketing, promotion, and then if you're ever in a position to do it, rights licensing. So when you understand the 7 stages of publishing that ALLi frequently talks about, that gives you a really nice roadmap in terms of what you should learn and how you should go about it. Other things would be like a website, getting a website going and getting that mailing list is also pretty important. The sooner you start it, the better. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts off the top of my head. Sasha, what do you think?
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because I agree with absolutely everything that you said. I think that the things that I say have changed over the years. So I have recently gone with a secret pen name, which means I'm starting again, and I'm not starting this time in the way that I started before. So what I have personally done this time is I have started by reading everything in my genre and really picking a genre and picking a niche and understanding what works and what doesn't work, what I like and what I don't like, and what the repeating patterns are in a genre. So you've talked about kind of the business side, and I really think it's very important to do the mailing list, the reader magnet, and getting the book done. Completely agree. The thing that I am doing differently this time is to look at the market before I put a single word on the page. But that's because my goal is income. And so for me, I start with reading everything I possibly can in my genre to understand what the reader wants, to understand what the patterns are. So the patterns, perhaps it's a trope, perhaps it's a type of character, what the popular things are in the popular books. What do they read like? What's the tone like? How much description do they have? How long are the books? So understanding, really getting to grips with what the market actually wants so that I can provide what the reader wants. So yes, I agree with everything that you said, and that's probably the only thing that I would add is that's where I have started this time.
That's a really, really good point in understanding your genre. I want to ask a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
What if you don't know what your genre is?
Then you need to find out. So if you know your story, you know what your story is, then you need to go to Kobo or Apple or Amazon and look in the charts, look at the books that have inspired you, look at the topics that you're seeing, the themes that you're seeing come up. This is why I say you need to read and read a lot, because it's only by reading that you start to understand, oh, well, actually my book doesn't really feel like that one, it feels more like this one. Or, oh, actually I'm seeing a lot of enemies to lovers tropes, I'm seeing that in this genre, but actually I'm seeing more fake dating over here. So perhaps actually because I'm doing enemies to lovers, these are my genres, so look at your bookshelf, look at what you're reading, and go into those charts and see what is charting and what is trending and what the similarities are to your story and your book. And that is kind of the only way, I think, is to read and read and read so that you can understand what you're seeing. So for example, and I'm going to keep the genre secret, so this is a difficult one to explain. But in this particular genre that I'm looking at, all of the books that are in KU are between 250 and about 280 pages long, whereas books in the same genre that are not in KU are 350 to 450 pages. So that's a pattern that I'm spotting. So it's those kinds of things that help you know. And if you've written a book that's 250 pages, well, then perhaps actually those are those are the books that are closer to your genre or to your niche. So yeah, it's a case of pattern spotting and doing a lot of reading and a lot of investigating on Amazon and Kobo and Apple and so on and so forth to find the books that are closest to yours.
Yeah, and it's also a battle of expectations too. I remember when I started, I did all the stuff that you talked about, Sasha. Looking at the market and all the business stuff that I talked about. And my first book was a flop, and I made $5.79 my first month of publishing. And there's also that, like figuring out what your expectations should be, what what are healthy expectations for you to have. I thought my first book would make me a six figures and I'd be able to retire to a beach. I mean, and I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I literally thought, I was going to be successful, and it didn't happen. So there's that too. So there's all the things you have to learn. And then there's the reality of that first book, which is, I think, the reality for a lot of people. And it can be difficult to manage all of that. And so you just have to know that you don't have to do it all overnight. It's a lifelong journey.
It really, really is.
All right. So another question that comes up a lot, Sasha. I'm just going to throw this one out there, which is we're talking about genres, and we often get the question: I'm writing Christian fiction, or I'm writing urban fantasy, or I'm writing science fiction, or I'm writing a nonfiction book or a memoir. Are there specific marketing tips per genre? That's a question we often get, and I'll answer it. The answer is yes, there is, but it comes back to what Sasha and I were talking about in terms of knowing your genre. All right, so we're unable to give specific genre marketing advice, but what we would recommend is that a lot of the basic marketing stuff works for all genres. So knowing your audience, knowing what goes on the cover, knowing whether the distribution of those books and what other authors are doing to market those books, I think are more important than actual specific urban fantasy marketing tips, right? Because at the end of the day, they're probably all doing a variation on the same theme. So if you have questions on how to market in your particular genre, we would recommend looking at what other authors in your genre are doing. That is the first most important thing. So get on a few mailing lists for the biggest authors in your genre, the biggest self-published authors in your genre. Those are usually the best targets, the best people to follow. Other indie authors, I should say. Get on their mailing lists, follow their Facebook pages, see what they're doing, and then do that. And you may not get the same results, but at least you'll get a sense of what they're doing, and that will help answer the question. All right. Okay, next question. So, Sasha, now we're going to move to some more specific questions because we got through all of the questions we had planned. But first, I noticed we have some comments coming in live. So Carrie asks, is there a way to rewatch this stream? Yes, Carrie, this will be broadcast, I believe, next Friday. So every Friday, our podcast episodes come out. So you should be able to listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. And then we also do post these on our ALLi YouTube channel. So just stay tuned. When these episodes come out, we will post them on our blog at selfpublishingadvice.org, and it will have all of the links to listen to the podcast and where to watch the video if you want to do that. Okay. And Morgan Bailey says, it's intriguing that Sasha wants to keep her new genre secret. I write openly in two genres under two names and am looking now to consolidate as it's tough enough to market one.
Many, many reasons to write secretly, not least because there's no pressure. You can experiment and do that, and if the experiment is successful, then, maybe I will tell people the pen name, but also there's reasons to do it to keep the data very clean and to keep the audiences very separate because they are very different genres. So yeah, there's a multitude of reasons for doing it, not least, it is an experiment and I just want to play without any pressure on nobody watching.
No pressure. And then reevaluate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Anthony asks 2 questions. In the middle of a sequel, I have a desire to update the first and release a new version. Is that advisable, or do we wait until after? So, in the middle of a sequel, okay. So, Anthony, what I would say is, it it depends. It depends on how big your audience is. I mean, if it's your first book, or if you don't have a whole lot of readers, it's not uncommon to be in the mid. I know exactly what you're dealing with. You've published book one, and then you're writing book two, and you realize, oh crap, I need to change a detail or two in book one. I would just go ahead and do it. Personally, I would just go ahead and do it, and then, especially if it's a continuity error, or if there's some sort of issue that will prevent people from understanding what's going on in the series, I don't think it would hurt you to just go ahead and take care of it. If it's more substantial, then maybe you do want to wait. But what do you think, Sasha?
Again, no, I completely agree. I was just going to say, I think, and I don't have the specifics, so you would have to look at the terms and conditions, but I think there is a term and condition that says if you update more than 10% of a book, it has to be a second edition, something along those lines, I think.
Yeah.
But you would
Yeah.
need to look at your distributors and their terms and conditions to see whether or not they would want a second edition versus just, if it's only like a couple of sentences or whatever, then I would just do it.
Yeah, I mean, my thought on it is that if it's if it's a novel, chances are it's probably not more than 10% for most people. I would just do it and ask for forgiveness, especially if it's a story, But yeah, there's definitely that guideline, and then the 10% rule also applies to ISBNs. So that's another
Yes.
thing you have to think about. But hopefully, Anthony, that is not a problem you are dealing with. And then Anthony's second question is, how do you motivate yourself? During the pandemic, it's been hard to feel creative and finish my books.
That is
Oh yeah,
that's a hard one for me.
yeah. Well, what I would say, Anthony, is staying motivated. Reconnect with your why. Why are you doing this? Right? I mean, why did you become a writer? And for me, I have a story that I tell a lot. I had a near-death experience, and so I always connect with that experience because there's a alternate universe somewhere out there where I wouldn't be here, and so I think about that, and that keeps me going. But what's your
And
passion?
yeah. For me, I tell a similar story. I want my son to grow up seeing that you can follow your dream and make it possible, and that's why I do what I do, because I did it. Like, I grew up knowing I could be successful, but not necessarily in a creative world. So that's what I want him to see. I want him to see someone being successful as a creative. And I think the other thing that really works, at least for me, is community. So try and join some writing communities, because you will be surrounded by people who are doing the words and getting the words out. And quite often people do challenges or sprints, or they, do a quarterly challenge together. And that kind of environment of everybody getting the work done, turning up, that kind of helps to foster the motivation.
Yeah. Challenges and community are key, and also, what are the things that generally motivate you? Like I tend to be a very goal oriented person. Like I'm always like I love going after numbers. Okay, I want to write 100 books or have published 100 books next year. Some people are more motivated by, oh, I want to write that story that I just absolutely love and it's super detailed, and just figure that out and find ways to reconnect with that and remind yourself of that. And it's definitely hasn't been easy to write during these crazy pandemic times, but um, what I always like to tell people is that you're not you don't fail unless you stop writing forever. You can always pick up the pen, right? So,
Absolutely.
all right. Next question, and this will be our last question here. It's a multi-part question. We've got member Adrian, who is wanting to work with, wanting to do an unplanned bundle. So basically, they released a nonfiction title 7 months ago, and they're working on another book that's on the same topic, and they want to bundle it with the existing book that they've already published. So the first part of the question is, should I release the next book and tell my ARC team to review the single? I would say yes. If you, it's never too early to get reviews in terms of your books. So if you've got the first book published, definitely send the first book to your ARC readers, and then once they've read that, I would send the next book to them. Just that way, it's top of mind. If they like it, then you've given them hopefully helpful information that they'll be able to use to do it. So yeah, a lot of the tricky stuff with unplanned bundles and anthologies and omnibuses and stuff is the timing. And I think the sooner you can get things in front of people, it makes it easier because it stays top of mind, because people read stuff and then they move on to the next thing, right? So you have any thoughts on that, Sasha?
No, I think, yeah, I agree with basically everything that you said. If you've got two different books in one, I would definitely like try and get as many eyes on as possible. And if you have the content and you're not bundling for a few months, then I would definitely try to get reviews. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the next part of the question is, should I release the next book, bundle it up? Oh wait, no, we already answered that. The next question is, should I run ads to book one, book two, and the bundle, or will they cannibalize each other's sales?
It depends. They're nonfiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I have different audience. So I do this. I have a textbook and a workbook and then a bundle of both. And I tend to find that it is different readers. So if you get 100%, wait, I don't know how to do the maths or the numbers, but
Yeah.
for the textbook gets the most. And then I get about, 30% more workbook sales. And then again, about another 30% of box set. But obviously it's different people. So it's just worth doing it anyway. So I don't know if that helps. I would probably just run ads to book one. In fact, well, I say that it depends on the type of ad. If it was a Facebook ad, I would run it to book one. If it's an AMS ad, I would do it to book one, book two, and probably the box set. That's
a pretty sound strategy. Another thing to think about is where you distribute your bundle as well. So I personally find that omnibuses on Amazon, it's hard to let people know that they exist, because because if you have a series, you got book one and you got book two, and then you've got this omnibus out there, it doesn't really feel good to put the omnibus in the same series, because if someone wants to click and buy them all, then it just distorts the math for them. And it doesn't really feel good either to put in your book description, this is also available as an omnibus. So I just have not found a good way to do it on Amazon.
Can
But
you not do a series of omnibuses?
Yeah, you can do that.
So that's a better way to do it, perhaps. And if you've got, say, like a 15-book series and you keep bundling 3 books, then you can have, like 5 books in your omnibus series of 3.
I've done that with one of my series. I know that's exactly what I've done. And the problem I still have with that is letting people know it exists.
Yeah.
Without, so if you're going to do that, that's a really good idea, but run ads to book one in the omnibus and book one in the singles. But what I think I'm going to do moving forward is I'm going to actually start just putting omnibuses on Kobo and Apple and other places like that, where they make it a lot easier to promote your omnibuses, and then just leave the singles on Amazon.
Yeah, and the omnibuses, when you, like, let's say you've got 20 books in an omnibus on Kobo, they allow you to charge whatever you want, and you still get your 70%. Whereas on Amazon, the minute you go over $9.99, they start hacking the amount that you earn from them. So it makes more sense to have the omnibuses on Kobo and Apple and all the other places. But of course, you have to be not in KU to do that.
Right.
So if your book 1 and book 2 and book 3 are in KU, just because you've created an omnibus does not mean that you can put that omnibus wide, because the same content is in KU. So you can actually only do that if you are not in KU.
No, that's right. And I believe on a lot of places, I could be wrong on this, but at least I think it's true on Amazon, you can only put something into an omnibus once. Like, you can't do omnibus. You can't do multiple omnibuses. So like if you have one book as a single, I think you can only put it in an omnibus one time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So you
so
couldn't do
it's
like
something
a
to be aware of.
3-3-3-3 and then a whole series.
I don't think so.
That's interesting. Oh,
I don't
okay.
think so. So
Mm.
that's something to look at. Look at the terms and service, folks, because it could change, or we could be wrong. So, but yeah, that's something to be aware of too.
Mm.
So, the final part of Adrian's question, I told you he had a multi-part question. Should I order a new cover for the bundle?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we both agree.
Yes.
We both agree.
Full
Get a
stop.
new cover. Yeah, full stop. Do a new
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
And I would not phone this one in. I would reach out to the designer and have them do something. What a lot of designers are doing now is they do like a panel, like where the first, like if you've got 3 books in a series, the first third is the first book, the second middle third is the second book, and then the third. So it looks really nice. And they
Mhm.
center the stuff. You could also do it other ways, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely get a new cover. That's going to help you with the marketing, and it will reduce reader confusion as well.
Yeah.
So make it clear that they're looking at an omnibus as opposed to, you know, a single. And whether that be a 3D cover, I mean, sometimes the 3D covers, I think sometimes they can look a little tacky. But however you want to do it, just make sure it looks professional. Okay. Well, Sacha, that concludes our first member Q&A together. I think we had a good time.
Amazing. I
Yeah,
think we did
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah, we had a lot of good questions. And if you've got questions, be sure to go to our question form. We'll put that in the show notes, a link to that. And we will be happy to answer your next question on our next show. So we will be back next month. But in the meantime, we hope that you have a great month and happy writing. See you next month.
Bye.